With that, we'll have roll call members, please.
Mr. Jeter, District 1.
Here.
Mr. Tipton, District 2.
Here.
Mr. Herron, District 3.
Here.
Mr. Bricky, District 4.
Here.
Mr. Mann, District 5.
Here.
Ms. Hood, District 6. Here. Ms. Addington at large. Here.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. With that, we will approve the agenda. It needs to be amended. I think, Ms. Starnes.
Yes, we need to remove item number 16.
Okay. The Mosley contract will be removed from the agenda. Any other additions or deletions from the agenda?
That's the only one that I'm aware of.
All right, with that being most approved, the agenda as amended. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tipton made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Jeter, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is to approve the minutes from the November 2nd, 2022 meeting. I hope you had a chance to look at it. If so, then motion to approve the agenda as presented to you.
So moved.
Mr. Jeter made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Tipton, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is citizen expression period. I'll read this and we'll go into that. Citizen expression period is upon the meeting when anyone who wishes to address the board or staff may do so. If you wish to speak, please come to the podium, state your name, where you're from in the county, and what organization you represent. The board may or may not respond to anything you say, but we'll take everything you say into account when making future decisions. Please keep your comments concise and business-like. If no one has signed up to speak, we do have one that has, Mr. Tim Edwards, I think it has. We'll take everything you say into account when making future decisions. Please keep your comments concise and business-like. Again, we just ask that you take turns to speak your business. Any action will be considered after we close citizen expression. So with that, we are at citizen expression.
Okay. I went to the first equalization board meeting. They made a determination. I understand it was kicked out. I went to the second one. They made a determination. I got a pink copy sent to my house in the mail. I received my tax tickets. It didn't reflect it. So I went to the commissioner's office. The commissioners, every which lady took care of it, said they couldn't get their computer to take the figures that the equalization board had sent me on the pink copy. It was close, but it wasn't exact. So I was just questioning why our Commissioner of Revenue's computer won't take what the equalization board determined. And it was even $100, in even hundreds. It wasn't, like cents or between 100.
How much was it off?
It was off $100 on one and $100 on the next one. And one was an odd number and one was an even number. I questioned, maybe they wouldn't take even or odd numbers, but one was odd and one was even.
Okay. We'll discuss your interview minutes.
The next thing was these automobiles. You're taxed the same whether it's got 300,000 or it's showroom condition. I really don't see how that's fair. And that's about it.
All right. Thank you. All right. Anyone else wishing to speak? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm back.
Good to have you.
I'm Peggy Tice, and I'm here to talk about Snowflake Road. And you all know what kind of condition it's in. And they did do some work this past week. Well, here comes the rain, and if it ain't bumpy and it's muddy, but they did do some. But then my niece was here last month, and about the ditch at her driveway, they didn't go. They went from Snowflake in from 71 that way. Well, they didn't go on past. I don't know if they cut down Hill Springs Road with the grader scraper, but now they did fix that area above the Darty place, and that was a big help. And then my next question is, are there shortage on gravel? If they would come along like right now and just put the gravel in the tracks, I mean, it would kind of pack down. But if they would do that just anytime, put it in the tracks, don't put it all over, you know, that goes over the ditch, that goes into pasture fields. And let's see, and then last month I asked you all, did y'all check on getting a grant? You know, they get grants for everything else, if we could get a grant for the road.
Usually, there's grants not available for nothing like that. It's a VDOT thing, and that, I don't know if they do anything with grant money.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if it is, it's beyond my, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think I asked them one time about a grant, and they said they could not do grants.
Yeah.
That's what they told me.
And then like the driveway into my mom's house and the barn, there's a ditch a foot or even deeper, the ditch. And you know, if VDOT would come along, like right now, and they could see what it needs some drain pipes. And then I guess my main thing too is I want to make sure that Snowflake Road is on the 6-year plan. And if we'd have just got 2/10 the years that we've been on the 6-year plan, we would, if we'd have just got 1/10 a year, we would have about 2 miles. So I just want to make sure that Snowflake Road is on the 6-year plan. And y'all have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, ma'am.
And Happy New Year. And I hope we get some road in the new year.
Okay.
Thank you all.
We'll address this in a few moments. Anyone else wishing to speak? Good morning.
Morning. My name is Bob Tice, and I happen to be married to the lady that just spoke, and from Snowflake area. And I got a question. The last meeting I was at, the revenue that's generated for road work, apparently, as I understood it, comes from like gas tax, maybe tag renewals or whatever, you know. Does any money come to help on the roads from personal property tax,
No.
like automobile?
No.
Well, that kind of makes me feel, you know, like it's automobile related to start with, but yet the money generated in our county today, none of that money is used for roads that is coming from the personal property tax.
That is correct. And none of it comes from any real estate taxes. Personal property does not go to any kind of road maintenance, or none of it does.
Okay, well, I know a person in our church said that their personal property tax on a truck that they've got was more than their land property tax. Oh, God, that's ridiculous. But with the price of vehicles and everything, I can understand.
That's why it's driving. That is correct.
Well, that don't seem fair to me, that, you know, one revenue's related to automobiles, but the other revenue's not
Right.
in the county. And then the last thing I want to vent a little frustration at is that years ago, I was at a meeting when Red Wine was, I guess, the chair. I made a suggestion. The 6-year plan, to me, ain't working, bottom line. And I asked him, I said, how long has this been in existence? I can't remember exactly what they said, but it's been a long time. And I told him, I said, well, you just take, for instance, 671. If there's just 5 miles of unpaved road, and you get approved every 6 years to get a half a mile, all right, what does that take? That takes 12 years to get 1 mile. And if there's 5 miles, that's 60 years to get 5 miles paved. That don't make no sense to me. That's the most antiquated, to me, the most antiquated plan that we're going by. What can you do to change it? Well, it's got to go through the legislation of the state. You know, you got to get them together. And it's just such a frustrating situation. And then like I say, Red Wine was in charge then, and I said, well, what about this? I get so tired of seeing primary roads get tore up and repaved, and there ain't nothing wrong with them to start with. And one of the biggest things, Wadlow Gap, I don't know how many times they tore that road up and repaved it. I thought, wasn't wrong with it to start with. Then they come along and that curve that's about halfway down, did all that work, God knows how much money, millions of dollars, and you still got a curve. It just don't make no sense. So, venting a little bit of, you know, and I followed up and I asked myself, why can't we take primary road money that don't really need to be used on any particular project, which appears to be, you know, much more allocation to a primary road than a secondary road. Take some of that primary road money and put it on secondary road if it's not going to be used. Can't do that. Can't do that. So as a citizen, we're just butting our head against the wall. We can come down here and, excuse my French, we can come down here and bitch about things all the time, you know, and it just seems like, what difference does it make? You know, so, and it appears that there's too many fingers in the pot. You know, there's not one person. I know the last meeting I was here, I heard one of you all say that, well, I took this road off a 6-year plan. That made me kind of think, well, who puts them on and who takes them off? Is it more than one person that's involved, you know? I mean, to me, it seems like there should be one person that takes that responsibility. I mean, you take an organization like Eastman, you got departments, and you got a head of that department, and then you got divisions, and you got a head of that division. There's not a whole bunch of fingers in it, you know, all the foremans out there don't have a whole lot to say about what goes on, you know. You got to designate just one person makes that decision. But, I don't know, I'm just venting a little frustration. And, but the 6-year plan, bottom line, ain't working. And I don't know how you ever change it, but, and of course, when it comes to government, I'll be dead and gone before I see any change. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? I'm going to address all this in a minute. When we get through, we'll address all of this. So, anyone else wanting to speak? If not, we'll come out of the public hearing. Debbie, the Commissioner of Revenue is here. Do you want to address this, what he's talking about? Mr. Edwards is here.
Probably need to get it back in, things went out,
Good morning.
so she didn't want to say it twice.
Tabby, you see if he stepped out the door there, Mr. Edwards, if he stepped outside, I think him and Mike stepped out. You don't do that, but. Should we come back in, please? All right. And Ms. Docker's here, she's the Commissioner of Revenue, going to address some of the stuff we're talking about, so her and Ms. Dillon, so if you would, Ms. Docker.
Okay. And the first question that Mr. Edwards asked was about the equalization board, the notice that he got. We had over 200 accounts that well, first of all, let me just say we had over 2,500 accounts that went before the second equalization board. There was over 200 that came back from Stonewall with mathematical errors. And when I say mathematical errors, they could not calculate it. We couldn't calculate it. And I know it's hard to understand the way that our real estate program is brought down. You know, if you have 1 acre, it's considered a house lot. But if you've got more than that, it may be partly wooded, partly open, swampy. Well, when Mr. Edwards came in and brought his pink slip, I done everything I could do to try to get that to match. I was off $100, which amounts to 77 cents. I mean, we're talking about 77 cents.
There wasn't $100 in value, it's the,
It was 100 in value.
yeah, but I'm talking about,
But the levy, the taxes
Wow,
was
77
77 cents.
Okay, wow.
And I done everything I could do. Ashley, that works for me, she was right there with me. She saw that I could not get that down to exactly what his pink slip is. I mean, you know, I get it. People don't like to pay taxes. I don't like to pay taxes, but we have to pay taxes. And we've done the best we can do with the situation that we've been dealt. And it's not been easy. This has been a 2-year nightmare for my office. I mean, it's, you know, and I'll let Tammy talk. I mean, she really has more to do with the real estate than I do.
In the $100 difference, anytime we're doing a
Let me quick, it's $100 in value, not the tax
$100 in
ticket.
difference,
So it is 77 cents.
it
yeah, what-
amounts to
what amount
77 cents based
Okay.
on this year's levy in
Yes.
2022. So it's 77 cents. And if the levy doesn't change, it's like $4 and something over until the next reassessment, until it's changed on the value somehow. That's a principle of it. We couldn't get it down to, because the computer will round up or down to 100, within 100. I have that happening all the time when I'm doing a transfer. If you bought a piece of property and I have to split a piece of property to do your parcel, you develop a parcel map number and PIN number, it may be within $100. That's the best we can do in doing that transfer for that new piece of property. We had to manually go in and override to get it within $100, to get it to where, you know, it was within $100. And I did, which I do the real estate, the bulk of it. I don't want to take no more credit than I deserve, but when it's to come to the responsibility, the R word, I've been eating a lot of R words, responsibility lately, because I have had a lot of my own mistakes that I have made this year. Plus the BOE, with the 200, I call it the problem child's file. We've got over 200 and we've looked at maybe a half a dozen or so. We cannot get it to say what the BOE wants it to say. I closed this year's books down. I'll take the R word. There's over 200 parcels I know of that has mistakes in it, and because of the ordinance, we cannot get it correct and to make it right. They've taken off house sites. They didn't give it a new value for that house site. You can't lose that 1 acre. It's got to have a value. I've got one, they took off 10 acres, didn't give a new value. 10 acres, we can't lose it. We got to have a survey to change the acreage. There's just several with different mathematical problems in it that needs to be addressed. We do have problems. We do need to get the answers. We don't know how to fix the answers because it was the BOE that said this is what we're going to bring it down to. The half a dozen people or so that's come in, I mean, we need to see the other 200 people. We need to get a meeting of the minds. This is what they said, but mathematically, you can't do what they said and what they wrote out. So his $100 assessment value is just one little bitty one. And on the cars and automobiles, Debbie can talk about those.
And on the automobiles, as you all are aware, this year they were inflated. And it's not just Scott County, it was the whole state of Virginia. It's not something that I chose to do myself. My vehicles increased in value. But I have to be consistent. I have to use a standardized mapping procedure, and all of the counties in Virginia used NADA. I don't adjust for high mileage because we pull in at line value, which is the lowest value that NADA has. And we used to adjust for high mileage until the PPTRA was put in place. And once that's put in place, if we go in there and try to adjust the value, it messes the whole account up. I would have to delete that whole account and issue a new account. It's just, it's impossible for my office to be able to do that. Next year, if they are still inflated, which I don't think they will be, but if they are inflated next year, then I will come before you all and say, you know, we need to do something. But I'm limited to what I can do. You know, I don't like it any more than anybody else. And yes, we took a lot of flack over it. But, you know, it's just the way it is. It's every county. You know, I've talked to other commissioners.
I know it's an issue in other counties. I even had some calls from Wise County, some issues they're going through. I know Dixon County did some stuff with theirs, but it's all over the state. I went to Vaco, Mike and Frida and I did, and it's an issue all over the state. So it's not unique to Scott County. So y'all have had your hands full. And we, you know, what we caused, we'll take the blame here for having 2 equalization boards. Y'all went through that, and I mean, it's really put a strain on you, and I know it has. I know it has, and the treasurer's office too, which she was here, but a special call meeting back a couple of weeks ago, and so I know we made it tougher on you all.
Well, it has put a strain, and I mean, we want everybody's to be correct, and we want them to match what the equalization board put, but it's impossible. Just like Tammy said, when they've taken off home sites, they've taken off acreage. I mean, they're not allowed to do that. And they've done things that we can't even figure out what they've done. So, I mean, it's really put us in a bind, and like Tammy said, we've still got a stack over there that has not been adjusted because, you know, we had Tricia from Stonewall make these changes, and she's an expert in it, and if she couldn't get them, you know, to change, and she brought it to our attention that she was concerned about it. She said, they've done things that I don't understand, you know, how they've come up with it. I mean, and one thing is they didn't really know what they were doing. I'm not trying to point fingers, but they weren't really educated in the process and how it works.
Okay. All righty. Like I said, we created a nightmare for you all, but it's beyond our control too. We were following the Virginia Department of Taxation guidelines when we did what we did, and so anyway, it's been a nightmare for you.
And I do have some that I have forwarded to Richmond to get their, you know, to see what he feels like that I can do, if I can correct these, or what I should do if I have the capability of doing it. And if I am allowed and I can do it, I will make sure that I do get Mr. Edwards $100 less.
Okay. $100 less in value.
In value,
Okay.
yes.
And that equates to 77 cents in his.
77 cents.
You're still not correct. He had 2 parcels, that's $1.54.
Okay. Well, $1.54.
But it's 77 cents each.
Yes, $1.54.
But if I kept rounding, and if I had rounded off any more, it would have completely eliminated it. So that's the reason for the $100.
I understand.
So I done what I felt like I had to do at the moment.
All right.
So,
Any questions or comments for Commissioner Revenue? Thank you. I know you're busy. Appreciate you coming.
thank you. Thank you.
Going this out on a 6-year plan, and Ms. Peggy and Bob, we thank y'all for coming. We've been in Richmond for VACO, which is the Virginia Association of Counties, and I sat in one of the transportation sessions, and Secretary Miller was there, and when you talk to them about over 250 miles of unpaved roads, you all have an issue there, and you do. But it's like that all over the county. I rode some the other day, and it's unbelievable the shape they're in, no gravel on it, and so on. So you're all just one of many, and I'm not trying to, but what we're so limited here what we can do. We can influence VDOT just a little bit. Now the 6-year plan back, when we first got elected, I'll remember, there was 34 projects on there, and there was no money. They took them all off. It was just all, it started, and put them back on as they came off. And it's about funding. We have zero influence on the funding. Last year on the rural rustic roads, they had some money, but it wasn't enough to even do one project where everything's gone up so much. They didn't do anything. They didn't do anything at all. It's all about funding. I wish they were all paid. You go into Wise County, all theirs is paid because they have co-severance tax they use just for the roads only. None of your personal property taxes, I wish that could be, but whatever, but not a penny of that goes to anything as far as VDOT is concerned on any of the roads. I talked to Secretary Miller just one-on-one about primary roads versus secondary roads. Now, this conversation happened, and I mentioned, I said, they're milling up roads, not a single pothole. Not a single pothole. For example, the road between here and Fort Blackmore, it plays 5 lanes wide, but 3 travel lanes, 2 emergency lanes. And I said, well, what happens? They put money in these pots, and the General Assembly would have to change this. I wish that they let us decide where that money goes, but we don't. But it goes in that pot, and they have to use it for primary road. They have to use it for that. And so you got secondary roads in horrible shape, but you cannot touch that money in the primary road pot. And so it's a legislative issue. I wish they would ask us here. We live in these counties, we live in these districts, we know what the conditions are, but we don't have a say-so in it. Now, the Waterloo Gap Road, I questioned that too. You took a little curve, made a big curve. It's about what it amounted to, and but still, it needs to be done. I'm not going to question that. For $4.5 million, I think they spent 30 to do that. So, you know, as far as getting these roads paved, and there's not one here. I know, Jeremy, in your district, you've been beating that since you've been elected, trying to get some roads there done. Yeah. And so I don't know what the answer is. It's all about funding. It's every bit about funding. When I told Secretary Lane about over 250 miles, and it was like he didn't really realize we had that many miles. He said, get up with me on whether every battle will do any good or not. They're just limited to what the General Assembly allows them to do, and I get it. So anyway, I know that's not what you want to hear, but I don't know what we can do here to make it any more funding come. I think they are going to look at it maybe a little bit differently about these secondary roads, getting these unpaved roads paved. And it's a long drawn out process. And like I said, when they took those 34 projects off and they started putting them back on as they came off. As far as us taking them off, Russell County, they had every road they had on a 6-year plan. And it's so, you know, it's just I guess, people doing things to make a few people happy. And so, to have them all on there is ridiculous. It just ain't gonna happen. But they don't have many as unpaved roads as we have either. Anyone else here got anything you want to mention about that?
The biggest thing about, getting them on the 6-year plan, that's one thing, but the maintenance of them, let's say snowflake went on there today, if it's not maintained in 6 years, you're not gonna have a road. The maintenance of them is gonna have, and gravel, it all boils down to money. There's not a shortage on stone. They just don't have the money to do it here locally, and they've got a budget too. But like I keep saying, it has to change in Richmond. That has to change some way or another to get more funds down here. But I've talked to Terry Kilgore, me and Danny both talked to him, but I don't know nothing's come about yet. I'll say that, but it's going to be a problem. And after these rains, it's going to be rough.
That's one of our big problems. Money motivates everything in our society.
It does.
It does.
Did Laura's driveway? Did you say they did fix it or they didn't? They didn't go that
they did
far.
not.
Okay.
And see, we was here a month ago, and they just traced the road last week. What day? Monday or this week?
Yeah.
Last week.
One change I have seen, they do have a grader blade sitting, or a road grader sitting at Nicholsville, and it's been there for 2 months, but it has to be used just because it's there. Anything. But they do have the equipment there to do it. But like I said, there's nothing on a lot of these roads to work. You're down to the bedrock. There's nothing there And what little you do, you're just bringing up dust and dirt, which when it rains is mud. And, you know, there's nothing there for them to even work with. And that's what I was trying to tell him about Laura's situation. It's down to the bedrock right there. There's nothing to work with. And, you know, the Ponderosa Road, it's the same way. I'm going to say every road in Scott County that is not paved needs to be worked right now. Needs stone, needs everything done to it. Ditches, drain tiles, everything. But they're so far behind now. You know, and that's going to continue. You know, the longer they wait to do something, it's just going to keep getting further and further put to the side. So I don't know. In another few years, we're not going to have any roads, or our secondary.
I think what they're mostly doing now is putting out fires, the old saying goes. They're taking care of down trees and stuff that's got to be done. But their manpower is not what it used to be. I'm probably wrong on my numbers, but not so long ago they had 28 employees. They're down like 12 now. And it's some of those maybe on sick leave or whatever, but I mean, it's something completely out of our control. I had a guy tell me Sunday, kind of bothered me a little bit. He said, you ought to resign from your job, Scott County Board of Supervisors, because you ain't doing nothing with VDOT. Folks, VDOT is Virginia Department of Transportation. But told me that, and I said, well, why don't you step in and do what I'm doing? Of course, that didn't get anywhere, but it's out. For the most part, we do have a little bit of influence. I'm not going to say we don't. But to get more money to come, we probably have zero influence. But maybe we will, something will happen, that more funding will come, you know, eventually to work and get these roads in shape. But they're awful. And think about this, our school buses traveling, what's it doing to them? Right. And so imagine the damage it's doing to your just to those. Your mail carriers, your now FedEx and other trucks are everywhere. So everybody, you know, when Sheriff Puckett, when he was sheriff, he talked about getting flat tires almost all the time where he lives because of unpaved road. So it's an issue. It's all over the county. All right, anything else here before we move on?
We need to start suing the state.
If we could, we would. All right.
The biggest problem with that is they're just not sending money down.
No.
VDOT don't have help. I mean, they don't have help. If you ain't got help, you can't do nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and I will say, they always say put work orders in. You know, the work order system that they have. I mean, I put them in. I know every one of us on this board has put in work orders for roads. Every one of us has, at, you know, multiple times. Typically, we'll follow it up with an email to the superintendent or whomever's the, you know, the person in charge to say, hey, we've put this work order in to fix this road. Here's what, you know, maybe even put some more pictures with it. I've done that and said, hey, you know, help this out, or, you know, and I think like Danny said, I mean, that's what they're doing. They're just putting out fires. They're looking at that list and they're going off priorities, you know, and that's the length of our influence, I guess, if you want to think about it like that. That's, I mean, you all have the same ability to put the work order in as we do, and that's what we do.
Does that mean we need to call every day for a load of gravel?
I mean, you can put a work order in. I mean, I know that's what they're going to tell you. You know what I mean? But I mean, I know what the gravel does on Hell Springs Road, because where Gabe has his farm down there, every time if they put gravel down, it washes, when it rains, it washes it down into his field every time. And I mean, and it's just like a Band-Aid putting on it for a few, you know, for a couple of days. So, I'm like you all,
You know, that's what bothers me. You know, we're destroying private property.
We are, because his property.
You know, without controlling the water. You know, I know where she's talking about. I can take you to dozens of places that there are hundreds of thousands of tons. If they could go and get all the gravel that's been washed off in pasture fields, they could gravel every road in Scott County and Russell County and Wise County, I guarantee it.
Yes.
But without that drainage system, you're going to continue, when they put the gravel on there, it's going to be gone.
Yeah, I mean.
There has to be more done. But going back to the 6-year plan, Snowflake Road will be the next one to go on. When VDOT lessens the restrictions on the money. That's the promise, that it's not official. It's not in writing. So whenever we made an agreement, there's I think there's 3 miles of that road, and there's like 17 houses on it that's where it's not paved. I mean, it's not like we're just want to do one that won't mean anything. There's 17 houses on it, and but when that'll be, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway.
All right. Folks, anyway, appreciate y'all coming. I don't know, but you keep coming. We'll do what we can here, but we do appreciate you coming because, I mean, we understand it. We really do.
Well, I'm
Thank y'all
gonna
for
say
coming.
this, I'm impressed the way y'all start your meetings. Saying pledge allegiance and prayer. I'm impressed with that.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming, being a part. Wish more people would come. But if they watch it, they can watch it on TV, watch it on YouTube, and so people need to know what's going on in the county, especially when it comes to spending their money. They need to know what we're doing. But anyway, thank y'all for coming. Anything else before we move on to item 7?
Just a quick note, Debbie is not in here, the Commissioner of Revenue, but I appreciate her explaining to us the process and to you all the process of about the used vehicles prices increasing and so forth, and that process that she had to go through. And a lot of folks think that's kind of the board or supervisor's responsibility, but it's not. But I appreciate her coming to share that with us.
We just have the tax levy. It's the only influence we have on that. So, all right. Anything else before we go to item 7? If not, the public hearing to amend the Scott County fiscal year budget 2023 amendment includes an increase in funds to the school operating fund totaling $70,346, $12,000 for GASB 87 audit services, or $92,720 in additional Fund 1 expenditures, and $310,833 in new grant funds received in various county departments since July 1st, 2022. So we got to do this because of the amount that it is. So with that, we'll go into the public hearing. Ms. Starr, anything you need to say? So we're on the public hearing. Anyone here wish to speak on this budget amendment? If not, we will close the public hearing and we will entertain a vote to approve this as presented to you. We need a motion.
Got a couple of things that you need to discuss.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I guess my main question is the positions that were
Right.
shown in your budget. Do you want everything left as is? If you approve as presented, then those would be funded.
So that the public will know, there's some things, if you go ahead and read that, I don't have it in front of me, you have it there, you can bring it up, or I can't, either one of you. So the people need to know the 3 positions that we're looking at.
Do you want me to go through all the changes?
No, just the ones on those positions. I think I looked at all the changes on there, I think everybody else has.
Okay, the first one would be for the treasurer's office. She currently has a part-time position that's funded between the Board of Supervisors and the Compensation Board. That would be making that person full-time. I believe that was $18,847. I'm still scrolling.
I do want to talk about that one when we get a minute.
All right.
Go ahead while I'm going to the next one, if that's okay.
Yes, so this person is part-time now currently, right?
That's correct.
This person, we are funding, let me get this straight, we are going to fund a full-time person. We're going to fully fund a full-time person for that position instead of part-time.
Correct, but there is money that the comp board has that goes toward it.
Right, but we are putting $18,000 toward it.
Right.
I got it now, $18,847.
847?
Yeah.
Right.
Let me say something about that. That was part-time when I first got elected. In 2016, we made it full-time, then it went back to part-time. So it has been a full-time position before, but anyway, so it's going to go back to a full-time position.
And the position duties as part-time has been to do the DMV stops.
once this person, if approved, goes to full-time, they'll also be doing debt set-off. If someone has a refund coming back from the state, such as an income tax refund, then if they have delinquent taxes in the county, that will come to the county first. So that will be what this person will be doing. Would be DMV stops and the debt set-off. And then during tax collection time, of course, working the counter to make the flow go faster.
Gotcha.
With the citizens. And I think with what we could recover with the debt set-off, you know, it's going to be an investment that we will be able to very well pay for.
I want to caveat that too, though. I want to say that you know, while I don't like increasing the amount of people we have in any of these positions, because, you know, big governments, that's not what we want. I do see, I want the oversight of this position, though. Can we see a breakdown each month for what DMV stops have been completed, what has been recovered from the debt collection services? I want to see a return on our investment in this, is what I want to see. I don't want to put money out there and not see that we are getting return on our investment in that. Because if that is the case, and that is the reason for this position, I want to see that that is truly being fulfilled. I want some accountability to that. If that's okay.
And if it's not being done, can we cut it back to part?
We did before.
And that's what I want to say. I want to revisit this, you know, 6 months, something. I want to see that we have made the right decision in putting this person full-time.
You know, something I've thought about. You know, in a normal year, and this has been nothing, this year has been far from normal, but we would have, any new position would have been added, we would have approved that in June. Pretty much. I mean, I'm sure there's some circumstances that we not maybe, but my opinion, it's just my opinion. I feel like the new positions, we should wait until this following year, this next year, to give it time to go through the full process, and then look at it and vote on it in June for the next fiscal year instead of this. Does that make sense? But because there's other things that may be needed that went through that process. And you know, all this has been messed up the whole time. I understand that, but still, at June, we sort of had a good feel of what the budget would be, except for these new, except for these new positions. Is the way I feel. That's how I feel about it.
Could I just suggest that if we wait till June of next year to put this in, this position is going to be paid for by the money that's generated from what she does. So it's offset, and we're paying this salary for what this person's going to do. If we wait till next June, taxes are out, and tax refunds then will go to the people who filed to the IRS. If we do it now, that money will come, what they owe us will come to the county first, and they'll get what is left over. Am I correct, Frida?
Yes, I believe.
Okay.
Meaning that they get it set up correctly in time.
Yes, if we go ahead and pass it right now, we can have it set up, and then we can start getting money in spring to pay for this salary. We won't have to take any money out anywhere else except what he or her brings in. Yeah, see, Jeremy, see what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
if we wait, we're gonna lose a year.
So where's the extra money gonna come from again?
The tax offsets and the DMV stops.
Yes.
Okay, but she's already doing DMV stops now, right? We're supposed to be.
Yes, she is.
Well, like Stephanie said, we want assurance that will be done. Both of those things will be done. And I'm sure we can get that monthly or whatever, hopefully.
I would like to see it monthly. If my tax dollars is paying for it, I expect the,
Well, I guess the big question would be, would the debt set off be enough to justify, the salary? That's
The
a big
18,000 it
question.
would be, wouldn't it?
I think it
That's what we
would.
need to be asking.
Yeah.
well, that's my question. I mean, that's what I want to know.
And these are good comments and questions because it needs to be said. And the people need to know what we're doing here when we do this.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
want
like
to
I said, in
spend our money without them
2012
knowing what they're doing, what we're doing.
Well, it's 2016 when we let that person go full-time, and then we cut it back for some other reasons. But anyway, we went from 2012 to 2018, and the DMV stops weren't done, period. And so that's how we justified it. It was a 4-3 vote. Me and Darrell Riley followed that. We did elect, I voted for this position, 4-3. But anyway, and so, but we've seen a huge increase in revenue because the DMV stops had started, when they did start. And so, but what happens, I'll just tell you what happens. In 5 years, if you don't pay your personal property taxes, it rolls off. If you sell that car, it goes away. So we were losing thousands and thousands of dollars because it was not being done. And so anyway, we had some issues back and forth with the treasurer's office about it. And so then we agreed to put this position full-time. But this is, I'm like you, this needs to happen. We need to see that it is happening, some results. I guess there were action here.
Yeah, I want to see, I want to implement, I want accountability to that office. That's what I
Well,
want.
the Commissioner of Revenue was here earlier. Could not the treasurer be here and address the situation or questions we may have? We could send her a message.
Probably not. I ain't gonna get into that.
I think we should go ahead and do it now. And then we've got 6 months. And if it's not being done, when the budget comes up June, we set a new budget.
Exactly. Yes.
I'm fine
That's a
with
good
that.
point.
I'm good with that.
Yes.
That's
I mean,
giving
that's
you
You
what
okay with that,
I
George?
want that
6 months to
reviewed.
figure it out.
Yes.
I want that reviewed. I want us to see results monthly. If we vote on this today, I expect a report sometime in February, January.
But we can always rescind it, I think.
Yeah, good point. Okay. The next position is that the increase in domestic violence funding was started, $29,694. You want to address that?
We currently give a supplement for the domestic violence position that the sheriff's office has. The grant pays $27,544, and the county pays $38,337, and the sheriff pays $7,500 from one of their funds. And with the increase that happened over this past year through the state comp board with officers' beginning salaries, what we were paying for this position is below that amount. So they have asked for the county to put in a supplement. The reason that it is the amount that Danny told you, the $29,000, is because our domestic violence officer that was in the position and just recently left waived county insurance. So as you know, health insurance costs are pretty expensive. So that's why the amount is more than it actually looks like it is, because they would have to be offered benefits. And you cannot ask if it's single or family plan or whatever when you hire somebody. So, you have to look at the worst case scenario, which would be the $29,000. But like I said, we would have been paying most of this anyway if that employee had come up at open enrollment and chose to do health insurance, because of the new healthcare laws. You have to supply those benefits if someone works over 30 hours. So $29,694 would be the worst case scenario on the domestic violence position, and that would be bringing someone in up to $45,000 starting salary.
Okay. One of the judges has contacted most of us about this, how bad it's needed. And so anyway, like I said, it's needed, and a lot going on with that. So anyway, it's in there too. The amount would be $29,694. The other position is an accreditation employee that's part-time now in the sheriff's office. And go ahead, Ms. Starnes, you're more on the numbers. Now, I have the final number, $32,807.
You currently fund the sheriff's office a part-time employee that does accreditation work and grants for the sheriff's office. That's a part-time position, and they have asked for her to be made full-time, and that cost could be up to an additional $32,807 if she were to do the family insurance plan. Total cost to the county could be up to $58,780 total.
The other position is the building inspector. And what's happening, it was announced back a month or so ago about the what's happening down on the Riverside development. And there's no way one employee can keep up with what is supposed going to happen down there. The building is going to happen. And so I told Ms. Starnes, we all told Ms. Starnes, if we would start looking at an additional employee, there's no way one could do it. Impossible. So anyway, that amount would be $29,828. The total amount is $111,000 for all three positions, or four positions, $111,176. But this position this is January through June funding for this position. And so you have one person now that's doing the inspections, and like I said, there's no way one person can do it. Impossible. So any other discussion on that?
The first thing we talked about, the treasurer position, that's going to bring money back to us. The last one we talked about, the building inspector, that will bring money back to us because, if I'm correct, over 200 housing units are going in down there. I think
it's a lot. They've not said the exact number, but it's with the condominiums, the houses, and everything. It's going to be a pretty good number. They've never really released how many. I've heard some numbers, but they've never released how many.
Right. I've heard from 50 up to a little over 200. But the first thing we discussed and the last thing we discussed brings money to the county. So I think those two are kind of priorities right now. Domestic violence. Marshall and I were on the budget committee, and the sheriff came in and an investigator, and there was over 200. This was when, Marshall? June or July that we met. There was over 200 domestic violence calls in Scott County. And I hope I'm right about that, Frida. I think that's what I remember in it, Marshall.
I think that's right.
Over 200 domestic violence calls. That's a bunch. And we were told that a normal officer that goes out is not equipped, not trained to handle domestic violence, and that's what this person would do. So as far as prioritizing, I think first, and this is just my opinion, I think first and four are important because they'll bring money to us. The first one right away, and the building inspector down the road. The domestic violence, it sounds like that's very important out there. You can pass by our, what's the shelter? The Hope House. You can pass by the Hope House, and there's a line of cars there. I'm not going to say where it is because it just wouldn't be right. But that is a problem in the county. And then I'll let somebody else speak to the part-time person if they will.
I agree with you on that domestic violence. I was an extra service where women could call and I would answer the phone and have them picked up, but this was in another state, and it is a very serious problem, and I think that this is a good thing to have this officer.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, on this building inspector, did you say 29,800?
That's just for 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was awful cheap.
Yeah. January through June.
How are you gonna hire somebody for that? Okay, that straightens that out. Thank you.
And folks, I'll put it out there, we need somebody. If you know anybody that might be a good building person, you gotta be licensed to do it, but we'll be putting that out there, and hopefully we'll get some people to respond to it. We need another good building official, so anyone that knows someone that put a bug in their ear that this happens today. Anything else? All right. Good discussion, it really is. So with that, we'll entertain a motion to approve this amended budget as presented to you. Do we have a motion to do that?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
That's with these positions, okay?
Oh,
All of them, both?
Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Tipton made a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bricky, second, any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is another public hearing on the possible adoption of an amendment to the Scott County, Virginia zoning ordinance to amend section 200-300.2B2 to allow the following residential use types as a special use: accessory apartment, family daycare home, home occupation, multifamily dwelling, residential human care facility, single family dwelling, attached and detached townhouse, and two family dwellings. So with that, we'll open the public hearing. And again, this is about the Riverside Development property. Do we have anyone wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
If you might have some questions, I'm here if you have any questions.
Okay, appreciate you coming.
Otherwise, we'll take your time.
All right, appreciate you coming. So with that, no one is speaking. We will open up for discussion here on this board. Anyone?
Yeah, I'll just mention that I actually went down and looked at some of the houses and so forth, and was really...
You're talking about in Kingsport?
In Kingsport,
Yes.
In Kingsport. And actually, they have quite a few of them around, so I went to a couple, 3 different locations, and was really impressed with what I see, so. And Danny's here today. Good to see you, Danny.
See you, sir.
Yeah. All right. Any other comments before we entertain a motion?
Just to clarify, this is any commercial district throughout the county that a residential use that's listed could be added as a special use
Okay.
in any commercial district. So it's
All right. Thank you for clarification. Anyone else? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve this zoning amendment ordinance. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Ricky made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Hood, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right. Jessica Parton here, item 9 from the Recovery Center report.
Thank you for having us.
thank you.
Some folders together with our power.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Doing good.
Thank you, sir.
Um,
Thank you, man.
Christmas gifts? All right. How you doing?
Good, man.
All right.
My name is Jessica Parton. I am the Director of Operations for Revita Recovery for the state of Virginia, and I'm also the Program Director for the Duffield Clinic. And so I just thank you all for taking time for us today. And so I've given you a little packet that has some information in there, and also the presentation that we have. And today I've brought Willie Hamilton, who is a nurse practitioner in our Duffield office. And then I have Adrian Thacker, who is a nurse practitioner, and he's our site medical director. And then I have Susan Gilman, who is, she's a licensed clinical social worker. She is our clinical supervisor for the counseling department for the state of Virginia. And then Miss Ashley Jones, who is a counselor in our Duffield office, if you guys have any questions afterwards. And so Revita Recovery Center is a comprehensive behavioral health care company that incorporates medication-assisted treatment to treat opioid use disorder. Our corporate office is located in Nashville, Tennessee, but we have 8 programs throughout East Tennessee, and then we have 3 here in Virginia with Duffield, Whitfield, and the Abingdon office. Our mission statement is to promote a safe and healthy community by empowering individuals to reclaim their lives from opioid use disorder. I think one of the really important things for us is that all of our clinical staff, this is their home, this is their community. They were all born and raised in the area. Mr. Hamilton lives here in Gate City. Mr. Thacker is from Wise County, and Ashley actually lives in Duffield, not very far from our office. And so all of us are very involved in our community. We participate in the things that are happening in Duffield. We try to participate in things that are not only in Scott County, but also the counties that surround us, because our patient population is from all of the surrounding counties as well. Ravita Recovery is CARF accredited, and we are, in Tennessee, Ravita is the 5th provider in the entire state to be accredited by CARF. And it covers all of our 8 treatment facilities in Virginia and Tennessee as well. We are, the majority of our patient population is covered through some type of insurance. There's a flyer in the notebook that talks about all of the insurances that we are currently credentialed with. We are part of the Virginia Arts Program, and we also take the Medicaid and the Medicare of Virginia. So we're working towards additional credentialing, but most of the major insurance companies in Virginia we are credentialing. Some of the additional programs that we have at Ravita, our Duffield office has a hepatitis C program, and we currently have we're beginning a partnership with the Virginia Department of Health. And so, with the hepatitis C program, each patient infected with hepatitis C spreads the infection to approximately 20 other people. And the graph that we have on here shows that for our area, we have the second highest, correct, Adrian? The second highest population of hepatitis C for this area. But we also have the lowest number of people that are being treated for hepatitis C. And so that's one of the programs that we do in Duffield, is to provide those patients with the treatment that they need for that. The other program that we have in the Duffield office is the extended release buprenorphine injection. And so this is an injection that our patients receive every 28 days. They come into the office and receive that injection. The patients that we have within our treatment program, when they come in, they see a care coordinator, which they assist with like resources for housing, food. They work with social services. We work with probation office. We also have a counseling department, and so all of our patients participate in counseling, whether that's individual counseling sessions or those are group counseling sessions. And then all of the patients will see a prescriber. Our prescribers are on site, so the patients come into the office and they see someone in the office. So they have that face-to-face interaction with the patient. One way that we promote a health and safety and with our communities is the partnerships that we have. And these are just some local partnerships with the Virginia Department of Health, ASAC, Lindsey Wilson College. Valley Health comes out a couple of times a year and sets up in our parking lot, and we do the mobile imaging for patients and people out in the community. And then just our local participation with Duffield. And this is our online and social contact information. It talks about the different offices that we have and the phone number that patients can call in, or new patients can call in for intake appointments. And then if you all have any questions that our clinical staff may be able to answer that I can't answer.
Anyone have any comments or questions? Do you have a number, like success rate? Do you have any numbers on that as far as?
Adrian, you want to?
Numbers related to?
People been treated that has successfully completed and is.
Still a recovery problem.
Yeah, so in addiction treatment, we define success. There's a couple different measures, right? But primarily it's that the patient's staying engaged in treatment. Like, that's our goal. You know, I wish patients came to our office and immediately quit using drugs and just was cured of this chronic relapsing condition. But it's not how it works. Many patients, they enter treatment and they do really well. You know, they don't require a lot of support. Then you have some who need a little bit of additional support, and it takes time. It's a process. So we measure our success rates by how patients stay engaged in treatment. You know, our approach to caring for the patients is one of empathy and compassion, where we try to connect with them. You know, many of our patients, they began using drugs at an early age. It was with family members that they started using drugs with. addiction has kind of ravaged our community altogether. It's a cultural problem. So we are the only healthy connection and positive connection in their life. So we base their progress in treatment based upon them staying engaged. We do utilize drug screens. Drug screens are not done with a punitive approach, to try to catch people using drugs. We want to make sure they're taking their medication. We also want to be able to assess for other substances that may be noted in their urine. As you're all aware, fentanyl is becoming a major problem in our area. There's most people who are dying from using fentanyl were unknowingly ingesting it. They were using another substance that they thought was something else, and then it ended up being fentanyl. So it's for their safety and for their well-being.
Okay. It's an issue. Every family I know of is affected by it, some way, somehow. And jail doesn't fix it. And I've known too many people that talk to a kid been in jail 8 years. In 2 years, he's right back where he was. So initially said the jail saved his life, but he went right back to where he was.
You're exactly right, and that's why I think there's going to be a shift. It's already beginning now, but instead of incarcerating the people who suffer from a substance use disorder, the method is going to be to get them engaged with a treatment program that can connect with them and can show them empathy and compassion. That's why our team, we really embody the multidisciplinary treatment team approach. Like, we have substance use care coordinators, right? What these people do, usually they're registered nurses, or they have their bachelor's in social work or psychology, but they help our patients to secure stable housing, right? They help them with resources with their power, their food. They help them with resources for water. If they're on probation or they're on parole, they help to make for sure they're continuing to engage in those services. They help to make sure they're continuing to attend their court appointments. If they're in the Scott County Works program, how are you doing with that? Are you going regularly? Are you having issues with transportation? And that's what our care coordinator does. They help to address all these other issues that are related to the patient's addiction. And then the prescribing clinicians, such as myself and Mr. Hamilton here, we use skills in motivational interviewing where we expect and anticipate patients having ambivalence of abstinence of drug use. I wish that everyone that walked through our doors, it was their goal to immediately stop using drugs, and they did that in a short period of time. But it just don't happen like that. So as clinicians who are educated in addiction medicine, what we do is we celebrate that ambivalence, right? We engage it, and we help that patient to grow and develop a readiness for change. But we don't do it by telling them hey, you need to stop using drugs, or drugs are bad, or you need to do this. Because as humans, naturally, when somebody tells us to do something, what's the first thought we have? Why we don't want to do it, right? All these reasons why we don't want to do it, right? So what we do is we help to talk to patients and find their own reasons for why they want to engage in recovery, their own reasons of individualized to their life, how drug use is having a negative impact on them. And we let it be them talking about it. And then we provide affirmation and reflection upon those things.
Are y'all working with the Scott Service Program or Wise Works, of those programs? You all involved in those?
We have patients who are in the Scott Works program. We have patients who are in the Wise Works program. We don't yet officially have an established relationship with those entities. There's also the drug court programs and the Duffield jail. Many people who are there struggle with substance use disorders. It's a big part of the crime in our area. But those are relationships we're working to try to establish.
I was hoping you would. That's good.
If you have any connections, Danny, that can help to do that, we will do what needs to be done to follow through with that. Because it's something that is our goal and that is our intention. Like Jessica said, we live here. Our kids are here. We love our community. We love this place, and we see what drugs and addiction has done to it. And we want to do everything we can to help to save our community and promote it to be safe and healthy. And that's our goal. That's what we do.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
I think it's a great presentation. I got questions about the center when I was running for office. So here recently I thought, well, I need to find out, what do they do? And I'm very impressed, and I think that it is a good thing to get addicted people recovered, because we're talking about domestic violence. kind of plays in there. We've not had it here, and I hope we never do, but school shootings, I think that sometimes that is drug related. So I think it's a very good center. I'm pleased that it's in Duffield.
Thank you, Selma. I would agree. We had a meeting recently with the Watts County Bar Association, and that's what they were saying, is that the majority of the cases that they see in their court system are drug related. I mean, it may not be a possession or a distribution charge, but the person who is being trialed, the defendant, that they use drugs. They suffer from a substance use disorder, and it has contributed to the theft and all these other related crimes. So by engaging these people who are really struggling and suffering in treatment, like it's widely established, they're going to become a more safe, stable, and productive member of society, and they can help to better our community. That's our goal.
Anyone else?
I'm going to say, Ms. Selma, they did come out and visit us at our Duffield office, and we would encourage, if any of you guys would like to come out, we would welcome you all to come in and visit with us in our center and just see the day-to-day operations of what we're doing and how that process works.
Thank you. All right.
We would love that.
All right. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Next item is Pam Cox is here. Pam, if you would, on a resolution in support of Virginia America 250 Commission recital. So I believe I saw your face on the front line of a parade here recently.
Congratulations. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Very well deserved.
Thank you. You all are sweet. My husband said he could hear me above the band. So I was louder than the band.
I'm not going to argue with him on that.
So really, I talked about this last month, and you should have the resolution on your tablet, correct?
Yes.
And so we've gotten some members to start to get the ball rolling with this commission, with the local commission. We would like to, when we had our first meeting, they asked me if I would ask for a member of the Board of Supervisors to be on the committee with us also. So I'm be happy to encourage you. We were gonna try and meet this month, but that's a little bit hard. So we'll have our next meeting next month. Lisa McCarty's on there, and I basically need for you all to pass this resolution so that we can become official and apply for grants.
Okay.
That's mainly what you need it for, is to apply for the grants. But I would love to have someone from the Board of Supervisors serve on the committee with us.
We'll do the resolution first, and I'll ask for volunteers.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions for Ms. Cox? Not entertain a motion to approve this resolution. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Jeter made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Tippin, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Who wants to help on this committee? Anyone on this board?
It'll be probably about a 3-year commitment.
And how often do they meet?
Well, we don't know yet. We'll probably meet at least once a month.
Okay.
And then once we get started, we may have to meet more frequently. Just depends on what they decide that they want to do.
Anyone want to volunteer?
You don't know when you meet either, I guess you.
No.
I could probably do it if Marshall doesn't want to.
But you go ahead and do it. I've got a lot of irons in the fire.
Okay, thank you.
So you want to?
Yes, I would.
All right.
Thank you, man.
Then, as chairman, I can appoint you, I guess, to that committee without doing any action or anything on it, so we can do that. And
Thank you very much. And I have something that I was going to give to you all. You asked me last month about economic impact of tourism, and I pulled these off of the Virginia Tourism website, and I'm just going to let you all pass them around. You can take a look at this and see what it says, the economic impact is. The Heart of Appalachia recently finished an economic impact study, and it said that last year our economic impact was $28.7 million. Now, I have done tourism been involved
involved with tourism efforts for, gosh, 30 years, and I know it's kind of hard to understand how that they qualify that and how that they calculate that. But they use this crazy formula, and there's an explanation attached to this. So I will give this to you all and let you pass it around so that maybe that kind of helps. And I want to say Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas to you.
See you next year.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You mentioned about Marshall. Marshall is currently serving as chairman of the Glen Wisco Board, so congratulations on that. Doing a good job. Sit through one meeting with you so far, so you're doing good. Mike and I both serve on, three of us serve on the Glen Wisco Planning District Board, and so anyway, thank you for what you do, Marshall. Our next item is to ratify the signing documents for the Compton building, and the county has purchased that building at 179 West Jackson Street, across from the courthouse. So, Mr. Orange, do you need to say anything else about that?
No, we have closed on the building. I just need formal authorization. You gave that to me by email to sign the closing documents. We just need to get all that shored up.
Do we need to say what we're going to do with the building?
I think some people need to know. So many issues about the courthouse, about what we were mostly presented to us, $27 million to $36 million on the courthouse. So this is an alternative to that, to purchase that building. And the Commonwealth Attorney's Office have all looked at it and they're in agreement with it. The location of the courthouse, we can do that. It's going to take some money to do it. The amount was $145,000. That's what the county got it for. And so when you look at what the other counties are doing, the courthouse renovations, anywhere from, I seen on TV on the news, Washington County, $18 million to do theirs. I think Russell County about $14 million or something. Is it more?
Washington's like 30.
Oh, that's right, it was, and Russell County was 18.
Russell's 18.
Yeah, anyway, so when we looked at ours, Mosley looked at it, gave us some options, and I could not do what they recommended. So buying this building, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office will be working out of it, some other uses too. So it's going to be a good thing for the county. And was ARPA money used? Am I correct in saying that? I want to make sure I get this right.
That's correct.
So the ARPA money was used, which is some of the rescue recovery money that was come from the federal government to buy the building. And so that was a great opportunity for the county to get that building and not have to do all this courthouse renovation. So I think it's a good shot for the county to do that. So any other discussion here before we officially vote to authorize Ms. Starnes to sign the documents? All right.
I mean, I will just say that, purchasing that building does help the situation with the Commonwealth's attorney and then the Scott Services and those folks, and it does create, the separation that the judges wanted.
Yeah.
So it does help create that.
And plus, a lot of this was coming from the Supreme Court of Virginia. It wasn't something, and I met with 3 of the judges a year or so ago, and they backed off on the pressure on us to give us time to get our heads up where we need to be to get this done. And so it's something that was coming that we were going to be required to do. Well, the current courthouse is 21,000 square feet. They said it needs to be 65,000 square feet. That's what they were saying. And so this is all coming beyond us, beyond our local court system. It's beyond that. It's what was going to have to happen. So anyway, this has been a really good shot for the county to get that building and to get it and do something with it. It's going to be expensive to renovate. We know that, but still better than $27 million.
We are going to be able to offset that with some of the money from the Scott Service program too,
right.
though.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Yeah, it will be.
We are going to be able to offset that from that program.
Yeah.
So that's it.
And when I first got elected, you had the Commissioner of Revenue there, the Treasurer's Office was there, and the first thing the court clerk will both title, he said, the judges put the pressure to secure the courthouse. And that was part of it, doing that, was to secure that. Marcus McClung, when he Commonwealth Attorney, he said they had a trial there, and they set up a temporary metal detector. 3 of his witnesses have weapons. So you see how important it is that we do these things and secure the courthouse. This is on beyond that, but we need the space. This is going to fix the space that's needed. So anyway, we still have some things we're going to do too. The old jail complex, sheriff's office will be demolished sometime in the near future, hopefully sooner than later. And all of that, it's just so dilapidated that we're fixing to get that done too. So hopefully all this will happen and not break the bank here that, or the county to try to get some of this stuff done, but it's got to be done. Any other discussion here before we vote to authorize Ms. Starnes?
I'll make the motion, we authorize Ms. Starnes to
All right.
sign the Compton building documents.
All right, Ms. Addington made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Hood, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. The next item is to, item 12, is to ratify the PSA contracts. Ms. Starnes, I'd bring it up here, but you've got that.
Those are on your tablet.
Yep.
It's a memorandum of agreement with Winnewisco,
Yeah, I see that.
individual project agreement for a multi-community project. Phelan Good is the name of that one. And also the Upper Cliff Mountain Black Gum Water Phase 2 project. So those agreements have been signed with your approval by email. We just need to get those ratified.
Okay. Need a motion to authorize this, ratify this. Need a
I'll
motion,
make the
Mr. Chairman?
motion.
All right.
I'll say.
Ms. Hood made a motion. Mr. Tipton, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is item 13. Ms. Starnes, if you would, to Virginia Employment Commission stuff, it's above my pay grade, so if you would.
This is our batch match processing that we use each year. We renew this in December. I've got it filled out. It's on your tablet. Bill usually serves as the information security officer. I'm the agreement contact. And Mr. Rife is the one, of course, that uses this data for tax collection purposes. So this, like I said, this is the same form that we do every year and the same agreement with the Virginia Employment Commission.
All right, need a motion to approve this agreement. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Jeter made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bricky, second. Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is item 14, Salvation Army. Bring it up. Are you on the board of directors, Darrell?
I'm on the advisory board.
Advisory board?
Yes.
Ms. Starnes, if you would.
I'll leave this one to Mr. Jeter. He requested that this be put on the agenda. There are some data that we've included in your packet of people that are served in Scott County by the Salvation Army. If you want to take a look at that, and then Darrell, or Mr. Jeter, if you don't care to do your request.
Okay. I just thought we should give the Salvation Army some money, whatever, because they are serving Tennessee and they serve Southwest Virginia. And they do real good work. And they've got 2 apartments over there that families can stay in until they get back on their feet and stuff. Then they've got, I think, 15 beds for women, 15 beds for men, besides the 2 apartments. And they do a lot of good work, and they feed a lot of people, and I think they've got 700 some people on the Angel Tree this year that they're taking care of, and part of them in Virginia, part of them in Tennessee, and they're buying food from Food City for some of the families that needs help, and anybody in Scott County, Southwest Virginia, that needs help can go over there, and it's on 505 Dale Street, and you can tour it anytime you want to go. Anybody wants to go tour it, I'll go with you, take you, or you can go on your own and tour the facility. They've got a kitchen. They serve dinner every day and serve meals to people, and it's a real good organization. I got talked into this, but I've been on it, I guess, a year. I've got 2 more years to go, but I just thought we should donate a little if that's y'all's wish.
Do you have an amount in mind?
I was thinking maybe $1,000 to start with. It's not every year, it's just, whenever we want.
Let me tell you something that happened a long time ago. On June 13th, 1964, our house burned down, and the Salvation Army come through for us. It was a long time ago, and we didn't have housing, but they provided a lot of stuff for us for Mom to get back housekeeping. So it directly affected us in June the 13th, 1964. So anyway.
I think it's a great agency. It's been many years now, but I helped fundraise for the current facility. And our meetings would be there, so we would eat with the people who came in to eat. And so it's dear to me. Salvation Army is great. I always give money when I pass their kettles during the holiday season.
They're having a thing on the 9th that they're having it at Walmart in Colonial Heights, I think I'm telling you right. And they're, of the Salvation Armies all around, the one that gets the most money that day gets some perks and stuff, some more money from whatever. But anyway, I would suggest if we do this, to take the check and put it in that kittle that day. And it will go towards getting more money, making more money for them. But they do a lot of good work, and you can go over there and there's people sitting outside waiting to have dinner and stuff. And they have really been overwhelmed here lately by the people coming there at the night and staying, because, you know, Kingsport said you can no longer camp on the streets, you can't camp under bridges and all that stuff. So they've been overwhelmed since, I believe they said August, as far as people coming and needing meals and needing a place to sleep and stuff like that.
Okay. So that would come from our contingency fund. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
To do? Okay. All right. Any other discussion? You'll put that form of a motion?
I will.
Okay. All right, Mr. Jeter made a motion. We donate $1,000 from our contingency fund to the Salvation Army. Entertain a second.
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Tipton, second. Any other discussion? We're okay on our contingency fund. Okay, I thought so, but I want to make sure. All right, we have a motion for $1,000 to the Salvation Army. Have a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion carried.